starting. It's starting. And we're live.
Hello, world. Hello. Thanks for joining us today. International Art Alliance coming to you in three continents. Three continents. This is real. This is a real thing. We are, wow, that's blowing my mind. My name's Ross Berman. I'm in Los Angeles, and I'd like to introduce to you Cheryl Wilcox in Australia, Laura Spirato in the United Kingdom, Denise Weissman-Polcher in Montreal area, and Rose L. Williams in British Columbia, Vancouver, British Columbia. Hi, Rose. Three continents today, guys. How about that? Wow. I guess we're always three continents, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because we've got so many people in Canada and
Our third continent.
Our third continent, Australia. Yeah.
Oh,
So
Lara, you didn't introduce Lara.
I didn't introduce Laura? I thought I did.
You did?
Yeah.
I missed it. Sorry.
That's because we have so many exciting things to discuss today. Boy, we've been waiting for this one, haven't we?
We have.
And we should probably kick off with this because this is a groundbreaking proposition for the International Art Alliance and for how we will go forward. We have a new friend in the world who is looking at us with an open heart. Denise, would you tell us what I'm talking about?
Yes, I will. Yeah, we have a special announcement today that we from this moment onward, we will be working with the wonderful people at Masterpak. They have generously provided us with these beautiful shipping boxes that we will be using when we are embarking on our larger paintings, which is going to start really, really soon. Because now, so far, we've only been using like these sort of envelopes because these small panels can just go in a little envelope. But these larger panels, they are going to need a little bit more protection. So they create these really beautiful boxes. I will show you one of them in a little bit. And they provided each of us with one of those boxes, and we are going to be using these boxes. Each painting will basically get its own box, and then each box will travel around the world. It's going to make at least 6 trips. So it's going to be quite an adventure for us and for them. And of course, you can follow along by joining us every week to see how these boxes are doing and how they are changing. Because I think with them collecting all these stamps and bits of tape, they're going to become their own little items. So let me take you to the other side of the studio so I can show you what we're talking about. I'll turn on the camera over here. See if that's working. There we go. Yeah. And then I'm going to over here, because I'm also running the tech side of things, going to pin this screen. No, not this one. Sorry. This one. So you can all see what's happening. There we go. Let me take that away. Perfect. So this is the box. It is nice and big. It says here it's 27 by 22. That's because that's the size of the painting. Well, the painting is a little smaller. So let me open it up. This is really nice. And then you can see here, can you see this? This is a protective plate that's going to protect the box from piercing.
Ooh.
And then we have a beautiful layer of foam. Ooh. And then these are our paintings. I will lift it out.
It's into foam too?
It is encased in foam. So as you can see here, there's sort of a ring of foam that will protect that where the painting will fit in, and then underneath there's another layer of foam. So it will really be encased in foam while it is traveling. So we can just now this ring is exactly to the size of this painting, so it will just neatly fit in there like this, and then we cover it with a little foam blanket, and then it's all safe.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's awesome, isn't it?
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
could
cool.
imagine little Fry just sort of like snugging in there, Ross.
I know, and I actually used, because I cut this out. They have these. It's actually perforated, so you can sort of measure and then cut out the size that you need. And I used the excess. I shoved it on the inside of the panel, so I could add the a little compartment for the passport to fit in there, which already fell out, but that was the idea.
So clever.
It's beautiful.
So yeah, it's and also it protects it because it's hollow, so at least that's that way it's also protected from that side. So there we go.
Denise,
We're really excited about this.
Can
I
you
will,
show us the ply of the cardboard?
Yes, I can. Let me take this camera here. There we go. It's really thick. It's double ply.
Oh, that's
Nice.
very nice.
And then there's this yeah, it's sort of plastic. I'm not quite sure what the material is, but it's
Titanium?
it's against perforation, so it's
Why
really
do I
nice.
think it's titanium for?
Oh, that might be, yeah.
Why do I
Might
think it's titanium? Have I read on the box? Because I've got one also. I thought it was
Titanium, as in the metal?
Yeah,
Titanium?
because it has to be really. It's really light. It's light.
It's very light and it's very strong.
It's
It's
light.
very
And it's very strong.
It doesn't
So-
bend at all either.
Yeah,
And
that's
then-
why I thought it was titanium.
This is actually, if you can see, the sides here actually double, so it's the box slots in here when it closes.
Oh, yeah.
So this is super strong. So
Wow.
I'm
Oh,
excited.
nice. Masterpak.
Masterfully packed they will be.
Because we are doing this IRL, and these paintings are actually traveling like through time and space.
They are, yeah.
Space.
It's really exciting actually. So we are going to embark on this journey, and Masterpak has generally decided to join us, which is pretty cool.
I think this is a wonderful partnership. It makes so much sense. And we're going to be able to truly test the qualities of these Masterpaks.
Yeah, for sure. I actually wanted to tell you a little bit about that because we have been talking to them for quite a while, and their president told us that they had talked about doing something like this in a meeting about maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It came up for them, and they were like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we could have like this group of artists and they would send paintings around the world. And now they are sort of over the moon happy that this sort of happened organically, and they are, I think, just as excited about this as we are. Just this, because for them also it's going to be sort of an adventure to see how these boxes will hold up for 6 trips around the world.
I think
Literally around the world, too.
as you mentioned, at the end of all of this, the boxes themselves will be part of our display because they'll become artifacts of the entire experience. I mean, we're pitching this as a multimedia project, right? This is not just paintings. This is not just an intercollaboration, a conceptual intercollaboration, but this is like we're actually ending up with videos and animated kind of documents of the creation of these pieces, not just the finished item.
Yes, and our writing too, right? That's what Denise was showing inside that slot, was our passport that accompanies each painting. Each painting has its own passport going to the different countries, and then we are the customs officers to stamp them and to write in what's coming in and what's going out, and how we're keeping the travel alive. We write in our inspirations and our thoughts. So we have writing to do there too. Where's the company located, Denise?
They're in the United States, and I think they also have an office in Europe somewhere, because I know that Lara and Cheryl's boxes came from their Europe location, but their main office, I think, is in the United States. So you can find them at Masterpak let me say this correctly because otherwise that would be bad. Let me check real quick. I know they're Masterpak USA on Facebook and Instagram. And then their website is actually masterpak-usa.com. So that is where you can find them. If you need one of those boxes for yourself to ship your own artwork, we can highly recommend them because it's very, very convenient and very easy to use. And in addition, it is also a way for us to use much less packaging, which would otherwise end up in a landfill. So,
because it's just that sturdy. And Pak is spelled P-A-K, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. It's P-A-K.
So it's
Master P-A-K USA. Yes.
This just so expands on the original concept that Cheryl mentioned about how each piece is like having their own adventures, like like they're taking on their own character, and now they've got each will have their fancy Masterpak box.
It's like their little suitcase.
I wonder if we could decorate the outsides. Oh my god.
That would be awesome.
My stupid idea.
Well, mine is gonna have pink tape.
Pink tape.
Pink tape.
I'm telling you, each box is going to become its own art piece in and of itself. Mail art, shipping art, conceptual art. It's actually kind of making my brain start to I'm turning into Cheryl, and I'm getting all these
I know.
I'm gonna make a movie.
I know Cheryl has that effect, doesn't she?
Coming out of the box.
Oh yeah.
With ideas.
I was just thinking I might write Cheryl a little note on the inside of the box, like on the inside of the lid there.
Oh, what a lovely idea that is.
Because this painting, it's done, it's ready to go, and we've been waiting for this announcement actually to get started on our new series of paintings. So I think this one will soon make its way to Australia because you are first up for this one.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to it in 2 weeks.
Don't forget, we're also looking for funding for all this shipping costs. So that's inserted in there somewhere too.
Yes.
Any generous donors out there in the world who would like to have their name plastered all over too, just give us a ring.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking, Cheryl has so many ideas. Like Rose, you were saying, Cheryl just comes up with them. It's like her water, Cheryl, how do you keep yourself so inspired? What do you do? It's just your nature. Where do you come from with all that?
No, it's other artists. I love the world of art. I just can't believe how artists come up with all these crazy sort of, I don't know. And also it's like oil paint and it's like materials. And so I see materials and I always sort of just want to use them. I see other people's artwork and I think, oh my God, how did they think of that? So I don't know. I mean, I know that other people say that they're inspired by nature, but for some reason, I've been trying to write a little bit of a book and I was trying to write about oil painting, why I like oil paints. And in a lot of ways, I really just like the medium, or I like the act of doing art. And then the subject matter is almost like, gee, doesn't that look great? Oh, no, doesn't that look great? I just don't have this concept of, I can't ever imagine staying in the same area.
So you're the water paintings that you've been working. I know you've got this fantastic triptych that you've been working on, and it's coming to a conclusion now. So I know you paint a lot about the land and flora and fauna, but you're saying that that's not really your typical focus, that it's really your interests just are wherever your interests go?
Yeah, that happened to be where I was because we had these lockdowns and I live by the beach, but we could only wander at the beach for an hour. We weren't allowed to sit. We would be moved on. And so what I did was, this is part of Terrigal Lagoon that goes underneath the road. And I knew that it had a band of trees around it because I knew people couldn't see me. So what I could do was I could go down there. So no one would annoy me.
You are being subversive.
Sorry?
You're being subversive. You are a subversive.
Yeah, I know. And I
Doesn't
met a
that add to
fisherman down
doesn't that
there.
add to the story of those paintings?
Well, I
Cheryl,
needed to get outside and
you've got to include that in talking about the paintings. You've got
and
to.
so that's where it started from. So I was just going down there and I was just drawing and drawing and drawing, and it was almost like, well, that was next. That was where I could see. I'm just really bad. Like my husband says, he always says to me, he says, "There goes another rabbit."
I find, you know what? I'm similar to that because you guys met me and I was in a phase and I'm doing my botanical printing, but it's the act of making the art that is the endlessly fascinating. As Cheryl says, I can be down a rabbit hole of, I mean, for a long time, I was painting about commercial fishing and mermaids. I mean, that was like a big deal for me because it was like the mermaids were kind of like trying to stand up for the fish and, you know, battling the fishing, commercial fishing nets. I'm serious. That was what I was doing. But really, when you get down to the nitty gritty, it's the getting lost in the sensuality, mixing my palette. And like I watched Lara had a post the other day where she was putting that paint on the canvas, and I was like, "Ooh, yeah, ooh, give me more." I'm like, Cheryl, for me, that's very inspiring. I think I was more inspired by Lara putting the paint on the canvas than I have been in a long time.
It goes back to the kid with the mud. Yeah, it doesn't it, and it goes back to the cave painting, and it goes back to all of that. Let's see if this charcoal here in the fire. Oh my God, it's all black. It is, and I feel like that. That's how I feel almost. And I get paint on the wall, and I go, "Do you like that? Do you like that?" You know, something like that. And other people go, "Oh my God, Cheryl, your studio's so dirty," or something. I think, "Oh, Joe was liking
that." Me too. I'm like that too.
Laura, is your studio clean?
Sorry?
Is your studio very clean?
No. Absolutely.
You're throwing paint around and...
No, I'm really messy when I'm painting because I touch everything and the color drop, and yeah, no, it's not clean. Then I clean because it's in the house. I don't want to have too much messy after when I'm finished. But no, but I don't think that it's safe to have for an artist to have a studio too much clean.
Yeah, like you need to be able to feel free to make that mess.
Sorry?
We need to feel free to be able to make the mess if it's too
clean.
It's like
yeah,
too much like a gallery or something. So that's for the finished work, maybe.
Yeah, no, So when I start to paint something, I need to have everything around, and then follow what I feel.
What kind of paint are you using that Rose was talking about? That in your
it's the first layer of our painting.
I'll see you in a minute.
What kind of paint is it? Is it acrylic or oil? Or...
Oh yeah, it's acrylic. I love to use acrylic because it's very fresh, very quick to dry. So you have to be very quick using it.
Yeah, it does dry very quickly, right? You can still layer it and do different things with it if you have the right kinds of media or delaying media. What they're called media, right? Matte medium and gloss medium and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in this painting, I'm using layer because of the title, the subject is layer. So it's developing, yeah. And now it's not as you've seen in the video. It's totally different because growing up, I think I will finish tomorrow.
Ooh, exciting.
Very exciting. Denise, you do a whole layering process, talking about layers of discovery, our latest theme. how long does it take you to go from your conception to this finished piece? I know you're very disciplined
Quite a
and
while.
consistent. Quite a
I
while.
am. Yeah, well, I usually work on multiple pieces at the same time, just because there's so much layering and each layer needs to dry. I really accidentally
Sorry,
am working
Denise,
at
do you mean dry or do you mean cure? Do some have to cure?
cure.
Or,
I think
you
cure
know,
because because the acrylic, even though it feels dry, because I am going to be dunking it in water to take off the paper. If I do that too early, it tends to be really, really fragile. While if I wait a week, then the skin is a little bit stronger. It holds on to the pigments a little bit better. And there's just a little bit less of a chance of me breaking it while I'm cleaning it. So yeah, I guess curing is the right term. Although in case of the new painting that I just finished, like well the for our project, I actually used layers and layers of washi, which I apply or attach to the panel with a rice paste. And that actually does take quite a bit of time to dry because the rice paste really gets absorbed by the paper. And it really took, I would say, a day for each layer to dry. So that was a little bit of a time intensive process. It was not as much so much labor intensive as it was time intensive. Yes.
You have to like, how do you test it to see that it's dry? You touch its
Oh, you can
surface?
see
You have to,
it. No, you can see it because the washi, it becomes almost transparent. It almost disappears when it's wet. So as soon as it's dry, you'll actually start to see it again. So
because it's dimensional, right? It's a
yeah, yeah, and there's a bit of texture, and the paper just it just because when it gets wet, it just sort of becomes so almost transparent like. So it's very clear when it's that's actually what I wrote as one of the notes in the passport, is that when you guys work on it, even though I did put a sizing on top of it which makes the paper slightly water resistant, that doesn't mean that it's not susceptible to water anymore. So you have to be really careful working with a lot of water onto the washi paper, because as soon as it gets wet, it gets really, really delicate, and it's very easy to even with a brush.
Away.
Yeah, and
It also
even a
floats
yeah,
away.
it does.
Yeah.
And even with a brush, if you touch it with a harder brush, you will just push the fibers apart.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fine with doing any acrylic or whatever, because I work on washi with acrylic all the time. But like heavy water mediums, you have to be a little bit careful with that.
Yeah, that's sort of like the handmade papers I used to make from irises and stuff, that it would almost, if you didn't put the sizing and everything, it would just kind of almost start to float into fibers again.
It almost falls
And
apart.
yeah, and almost lose their bond. So you can actually use that if you know it's going to do it.
Yeah.
But if you don't know it's going to do it,
yeah. Well, it's funny because Japanese paper is actually made without any glue or any other binding materials. It's just literally the fibers of the material, the fibers of the kozo that are really elongated, that weave themselves together because they scoop the water in these mesh sort of boxes, and then like swish it this way and then that way, and that way the fibers sort of bond together and weave themselves. Yeah, tangle, exactly. And that's where it gets its strength from. It's actually really, really strong.
Like wool.
Yeah, but not when it's wet.
The fiber's probably got like a scale on the end of it. It's got like scales probably, and what's happening is they're interlocking.
Yeah, it's very sticky. Yeah, it's mulberry.
Mulberry?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what's happening. Exactly what Cheryl said. They're interlocking. But that's why you can't do it with just any fiber. You have to have the fiber, because the other ones are too smooth. Like the iris fiber is very smooth. And
which makes it actually fall apart even easier. That's why this paper doesn't really dissolve like you were talking about. But it's just you have to be very careful when it's wet, especially with a harder brush, that you don't like push the fibers apart.
So we just go back a little bit, Denise. you're talking about, okay, rice paper. So
Yeah.
is this the husk of the rice? Is that why brown rice?
No.
Is
It's
that,
actually I have.
or is it the?
No, it's
It's the
actually not,
fiber.
it has nothing to do with rice. It's
No, it's
Yeah.
not.
it's mulberry
It's mulberry leaves and bark.
bark. Yeah.
Ah,
It's actually
it's
they
bark too.
what happens is they have the mulberry trees. They're it's not like a huge trunk. They're very thin sort of branches, and they take the bark off, and then they use the yeah what's inside the bark basically, and they pound that to a pulp.
They pound it, yeah.
Well, actually, they make it into sort of long sort of slivers first, and then they suspend those in the river for a couple of weeks to bleach. So because otherwise it would be this color. But the sun and the water will bleach the fibers, and then they pound them by hand. Well, I guess some places now do it with machines, but they used to do it by hand. And I think there's still paper makers that do. And then they have this other substance that comes from a root, and that is actually used to make the particles suspend in the water better. So it's actually the opposite of a binder. It's to make it more loose. So they will
Flocculent.
yes.
Oh, so
And
then it
then
won't
they
clump up in when they actually make it.
Natural
It'll float
flocculent.
more.
yeah,
What do you
it
call
needs
those?
to
Natural
it
what?
needs to distribute
Flocculent.
itself evenly.
Floccular?
A flocculent. It's when you have
Flocculent.
like certain mushrooms that we use for dyeing are anaerobic. They don't absorb water very well, and so you have to add soap as a flocculant to make it align with the water.
Yeah.
Wow, I don't think I've ever learned quite so much in one sentence.
no.
before. That was
Ross,
incredible.
you. Ross, you.
What about me? What am I
Your
answering?
Your
inspiration.
My
Your-
inspiration?
Yeah,
Well,
your
it's funny. We were just talking about this just before we got on the air, and so I'm doing these cartoons now, and part of my I don't know part of the game that I'm playing now with my this word high is how many different ways can I say something about life itself or like a bigger picture about life with just with this one word and using it pictorially. And when I started doing these cartoons, it was like really like making a list. I mean, I think I must have made 40 in one afternoon just sketching them out, like here, because in this case they're more like characters, so it's like it's a big letter and a little letter, and so I've got one of like the little letter is sitting on top of the shoulders of the big letter watching a parade, something like that. And so they're like super cute. So, but I think it's quirky. I think that's the word that Cheryl used, quirky. And it's not like I try for quirky, but I kind of just am naturally drawn. I mean, I really love what you said earlier too, Cheryl, about artists and process. And like I collect pictures of artist studios because they're just like fascinating, to see what they look like. Laura, I'm so glad to hear that your studio is not like totally neat. Because it's like I have a picture of what the studio might look like, and it never looks like what I think it's going to look like. So I always find that very inspiring too. Now, I wanted to ask Rose, you have such a color palette.
Sorry, just a moment. I need to go, as I previously
go?
said.
Yes.
I need to go to
Okay,
pick up my
Laura.
daughter. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's
See you
okay.
next time,
Good to
Laura.
See you next time, Lara.
Bye.
And I know we're coming to a close as well, but before we go, Rose, how your colors aren't natural per se, but you have created a universe of your own color. Have you had this palette consistently through your career? Have you found yourself going into different palette ranges, or sometimes warmer, sometimes cooler? Or is it really derived from the natural world that the dyes that you're using? Or because they don't look like any other colors I've ever seen. They're very mysterious to me.
I think probably right now what you're seeing is kind of a culmination of years of having a unique watercolor thing, but it's really I really found a home with the natural dyes. It's almost like what I was seeing for so long and trying to kind of capture with different media. And maybe that's why I was a mixed media artist, because I never really like found anything that to completely grab what I was trying to convey. The natural dyes I found that home with them because they convey this kind of, I don't know, intensity but subtlety at the same time. Because with the natural dyes, you're only really working with like intensity and chroma. Otherwise, it's essentially the same colors, right? Like it's red, yellow, green, blue. That's it. It's just variations. Like it's not like the synthetic color world. It's a different world, and it's about pH and alkalinity. And that's how I change my colors. That's how us natural dyers shift our colors. For example, if I use goldenrod or I use madder root, both plant derived dyes, if I add vinegar or an acid or I add an alkaline like soda ash, I'll get different colors.
Oh, that's amazing.
Absolutely different colors. Like logwood will give me purple, or it will give me like gold, or it's a mystery. So for me, the color is often a mystery. I start off with an idea and a dye, and then when they combine, they make their own magic.
Oh.
Wow.
And that's one of the things that I've been kind of fascinated and inspired by, because I was like Cheryl, I was like a big oil painter. I mean, I was like in there. I loved my oil paints and the sensuality of it, but I get the same thing even more from the natural dye because I make them from the plants myself. And I take them from picking it at the roadside where I noticed some weeds while I was driving by in my environment. I go back, I wait till they're ready, or when they've opened, or at different plants, you have to wait till they're done. It depends. And so I get a sense of like, I don't know, intimacy. I get a sense of intimacy with the pigments. And then they do this mystery thing and change when I don't expect them to, like people do. Like having a relationship with someone and then they go do something different. You're like, oh, I didn't expect that. That was unpredictable. But it keeps life interesting. And that's a huge part of my inspiration is working with the chemistry of the natural world's pigments. And it's just an ever changing. I mean, I haven't even barely dived into mushroom dyes yet.
Well, this is the century to dive into mushrooms for sure. Everyone's talking about mushrooms. Well, in that trip around the world, I think we're probably coming to the close of our live today.
Before we end, I just want to mention that Stephanie wasn't able to join us today.
Right.
Yeah, she is setting up an exhibition in near Toronto. I forgot the name. Dufferin, yeah, the Dufferin Museum. She's setting up an exhibition there. So if you're in that neighborhood, go check that out. And she will be back with us next week.
Yes, Stephanie is busy working as a working artist.
Working artist. She is working. Yes, indeed. Setting up a show is no easy task.
Exactly.
Well, it's been great seeing you, my lovely friends, and friends out there in TV land too. Thank you for joining us today. I learned so much in this discussion. I'm kind of blown away. There was so much that we had discussed. Masterpak. Remember, get a Masterpak box. They're fantastic. Keep up with that too. And we'll see you next week on our live. Bye.
Thanks, Ross. Bye, guys.
Bye. I'm gonna turn this off.